Football fans, Gooners, welcome to the ultimate edition of the Positively Uncensored Arsenal podcast for the 23-24 season. I am your host, Shotta, and on the other side, virtually, is Blackburn George. George, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Well, George, in the banner and audience, the banner beneath here says it's an Arsenal-Everton match review, but that it's somewhat misleading because you and I decided we will be discussing into some detail the highlights of the season and why and when did Arsenal lose the title race. It has been an agonizing finish, in my opinion. Last 14 matches coming so close and yet so far. And I think that the fans supported the club right down to the last minute. There was a very enthusiastic audience at the Emirates, anxiously watching, looking on their phones. So were we who sat on our sofas. But at the end of the day, there was a certain inevitability about it. And I don't think this was masked by the victory over Everton. Your thoughts, George, after my long soliloquy?
Yeah, I think the two early goals from City dampened the atmosphere for a while until they got one back miraculously. Yes. And I didn't watch the City game, but apparently City were all over them for almost the entirety of the game. But we didn't play particularly well. Everton were typical Everton, more interested in spoiling the game than playing the game. And fuck Sean Dice and his fucking merry widows. But yeah, ultimately it was a disappointment because we didn't win the league, but we won another game. And we did our bit towards the end of the season to at least keep it interesting for everybody, not just for Arsenal fans. So gave the media and pundits something to talk about for weeks. Yes. And at the end of the day, we fell a little bit short. And as every team seems to recently with Manchester City, is it 6 out of 7 now they've won?
Yes.
And the only one they didn't win was the COVID season. They probably have won that as well if there had been crowds in and they'd been a bit more motivated.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a one-horse show now, isn't it?
Yes, that's interesting. Just so that people get a flavor for this. I'll get rid of the banner, George, because it's not going to. It's really not us. After this, is not much of a review, but yes. We outplayed them 70% possession. And you said Sean Dyche's team came there as spoilers. They came to kick us off the park in many respects. And George, as usual, they relied on Jordan Pickford to keep them in the game. I mean, we had the 26 shots, 5 shots on target. That's 20% if my math is right. But Pickford made some brilliant saves. The thought that went through my mind, if Ashley Young didn't make such a horrible pass, we would probably have drawn that game. I mean, that horrible square pass that Odegaard and I think it was Havertz took full advantage of.
Yeah, I'm not sure about whether we'd have drawn the game. We wouldn't have scored that goal, but I think we had enough in the locker to push harder if we'd had to. Mm-hmm. We were completely dominant in the game. It was anything but a win would have been an injustice. And I don't care what people say about they deserve something for the good defend. I mean, Sky tried to hype it up as if they were playing so well in defence and so well organised. Well, so fucking what? So he can organise the back 10. Good for him. Fucking useless cunt that he is.
Yeah,
hoarse voice and his fucking constant moaning, except when it's his turn. Moans about referees, moans about VAR, except when
Yes.
it then moans that he doesn't get VAR decisions. It's pathetic. They're pathetic.
Yes, I
Excuse.
remember him getting he went, what was it? He went ballistic over not getting a decision from the ref there. I think it was a penalty. Or I don't remember what it, or the penalty against him. I don't remember, but he loves to accuse. I remember he's
I
accused
think it was a handball, wasn't it? I think we
handball. Yes,
scored.
yes, George.
And to be fair, he had a point because it was
Yes,
handball.
yes, George. Yes, that led to the goal. Actually,
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for reminding me.
If it was me, I'd have chalked it off. They sent him to the screen, and for some reason, for one of the first times ever, he didn't agree with what VAR were telling him, what the VAR officials were telling him, and he gave the goal anyway. But for me, it was clear handball, and the goal shouldn't have stood. But I think we would have scored anyway.
Jesus leaned into the ball. That is where
Yeah,
it was
he
beneath
controlled it with his arm. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
But I'm glad we got it because fuck him.
Just on the Everton, George, they spent a lot of money, got themselves into a lot of problems and issues with the PL. They did a lot of illegalities, got points deduction. But this is a club that seems to be going backwards. I mean, with the Sean Dyche appointment, they're not interested in playing football. I just looked at them and I was like, none of the leading teams play like them. They're like harking back to the era when they would accuse Arsenal of not being loving it up them, kicking and
they're a typical 1990s team, aren't they?
yeah.
There's him, David Moyes. Used to have Tony Pulis and Sam Allardyce. Very limited managers. People don't want that anymore. They want to be entertained as well as watch football.
Exactly.
And good. Long may it continue. Even like some Mourinho. Days gone.
Yeah, I mean he's history. Nobody wants him. Not his style of football, and I think he's so obsessed with himself and self-opinionated, but he's into trouble. I think it's with Roma. They fired him or they're about to fire him. I don't keep up to date with him because he's history. But something about this season, George, and I want to talk. That it was just briefly. Everybody is playing football in the way Wenger once said. Everybody wants to play from the back. You remember one time when Wenger was playing the ball from the keeper to the midfielder, and people said, "Oh, you're taking too much risk." And Wenger said, "I'm trying to fool the other team to come forward." No, every the top team plays like that. And nobody mentions that, George. And I'm like, this is what Wenger was trying to do in the early early 2010s.
Yeah, I mean before that, from
Yes.
sort of 2007 onwards.
Yes.
And it makes me laugh because people talk about Pep Guardiola
yes.
being such a genius at Barcelona. Arsenal were doing it before Barcelona.
They all were coming to the Emirates, not to the Emirates, but the training field to see what Wenger was training the players to do. If you recall, even Pep came there to see what he was doing.
We just didn't quite have the quality of players to carry it out. Yes. We did in midfield and we probably did in attack, but our defenders weren't quite up to the ball playing standards required. But typical Arsene, persevered with it anyway because he believed in it. Was the right way to play football, and it was the way forward, and it was the way the game was going. And of course, he was right. But it took 20 years for people to realize it.
And as you say, George, and I emphasize, I hear these dickheads saying, "Oh, Pep has changed the way we play. Oh, nobody kicks a long ball anymore." Well, of course, sometimes tactically you have to. But this was being done by Arsenal as you say, since the late or let's say early 2000s, 2007, 2009, 2010, and but every time they say, I'm like, there's a knot in my stomach. What the shit are you talking about?
I know when they say, "Oh, look at him playing all these number 10s at the same
Right.
time. He's a fucking genius."
Yes.
And you think, "Oh yeah, Arshavin, Rosicky, Jack Wilshere, Aaron Ramsey, Mesut Ozil,
Yes.
all playing at the same. A lot of Santa Cazorla,
Yes. Yes.
all playing. A lot of them at the same time. He was doing what what Manchester City are doing now, 10, 15 years ago, and getting criticised for it because he didn't have the entire package staff-wise to carry it out. We weren't quite good enough on the ball in defence.
Right, and he didn't have the money to buy defenders, George.
Sorry?
He didn't have money to buy defenders. I mean, I have a figure
no,
here.
He didn't have money to buy defenders because what little money he had, he was spending on players like Cazorla and Thomas Rosicky and Andre Arshavin, and what we would do for that quality now, by the way. But anyway, we didn't win, and it didn't work for Arsenal, and it has worked for Pep Guardiola because he's had such a financial advantage, and he's cashed in on it, So
the other canard that I recall, George, remember when he would these people who simply had no idea and refused to at least give Arsenal the benefit of the doubt. Let me put it that way. Was when he used to play Ramsey and play Jack on the wings. Look at the boy Silva. That he plays left or right wing. He doesn't play in the middle of the field, and he runs the game from the wing. Bernardo Silva. And they say, no, Pep is a genius. Oh, God. And
that's right.
That's what people do.
You remember the absolute hoo-ha when he would play Aaron Ramsey wide right?
Yes.
Fanboys would go fucking mad. They didn't understand what he was doing. He was completely dominating the attack with overloads, and Ramsey was coming into the midfield and going over to the left and teaming up. Nobody understood what he was fucking doing. But now Pep Guardiola is a genius for doing exactly what he was doing 10 years ago and getting criticised for it, being told it couldn't work.
Right.
You needed an overlapping wingers. You didn't want somebody like Ramsey coming in field and clogging up the middle, getting on other people's way, they used to say.
I see these pundits.
What was the other thing they used to say? That these players weren't
physical enough.
No, not physical. What was the word that they used? I can't remember now. It was like
I have no idea what you're thinking about.
Disciplined. They weren't disciplined enough in the positioning. They were wandering all over the place. Fucking hell. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing now and getting told that they're a genius and they've invented a new way of playing football. But anyway.
So, George, what I wanted us to talk about is where and when did we lose the title? You go to Wikipedia, you'll get a description of every month. But we started off the season reasonably well, although we had a couple of setbacks. But we
weren't playing well, though, were we?
No, and this is what I wanted you to. We were winning games. Let's put it that way.
We're winning games without playing well. And I said at the time.
Go ahead, George.
That would catch up with us. Mm-hmm. You can't continually not play well and win games. And
it caught up with us in December, George. It caught us with us when we had the loss to West Ham and to Fulham. Plus, we had a loss in. There was a third game from one of the cups, a streak of losses. And although it brought Manchester City back in the frame because they had been dropping points they had, by the way, they had 7 draws. Well, we had 5 draws. They were dropping points like they were going out of style. And you kept saying that one of our problems was Gabriel Jesus, because he was the one who was playing up front and he was not scoring goals for Toffee. You want to go over that?
Yeah, I did mention that, but I think looking back, and it's not in hindsight because I said it at the time. If you looked at the results now, and I haven't, by the way, I'm just speculating here, but I suspect if you look at the games we lost and dropped points that we weren't expected to or shouldn't have done, Kai Havertz played in left midfield in almost every game. I can't remember a game where he didn't play there that we lost.
Well, particularly in the first part of the season. In fact, he was dropped.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was, and I was saying it at the time, and now apparently, because he's had a good second half of the season, playing in a better position, which does suit him, the first half of the season, and the Aston Villa game, by the way, where he went back into midfield, and we lost.
Right.
And we lost that one. That is the one game that we lost, and the one game that he went back into midfield for, and the one game that Jesus started up front for again.
And we got screwed.
We actually played quite well in the first half of that game, but we were at home. We were flying. Results had been going our way, and we probably should have scored a couple in the first half, but we didn't. But still in all, the second half, we were fucking awful.
Right.
And people said, oh, we ran out of legs, we ran out of steam. Did we? Or did we just pay the price for starting the wrong players in the wrong fucking positions? I think the latter. I don't think it was a run out of steam, run out of legs, we were tired. I think we just played the wrong players in the wrong positions in that game. And in the second half, Unai Emery made adjustments, and because he'd seen our weaknesses, and we paid the price.
Yes.
And
that, George, is ultimately the points that cost us, because 2 games prior we had gone to Manchester City and drawn with them. Now, Mr. Rodri, I think it's Rodri, in an interview on TV saying, well, we went up there with the wrong mentality. You want to comment on that? Did we go up there? Was it wrong? You wanted with the benefit of hindsight, because I know you said it was a brilliant result. And
I still maintain that. And if you looked at the table at the time, if we avoided defeat at Manchester City, it was in our hands. All we had to do was match their results for the rest of the season, and we would have won it. So it was absolutely the right thing to do. And people assume that because we went up there not to concede, that we decided we weren't going to try and win it. Well, that's not how it works in football. That's why these teams come and play defensively against us, hoping to get a breakaway goal and score. And we had 2, 3 very capable players that could have, on the break, damaged Manchester City, as we've seen happen to them in the past, as we've seen happen to us in the past. We still intended to win. We just rather concentrated on not losing and hoping to win. We didn't go out there throwing ourselves forward to try and force the game. Away at Manchester City, they haven't lost the game at home since 2022. You know, and people are complaining that we only got a draw. Fuck that. That was a phenomenal result. Everybody thought we would lose. Everybody. Every single pundit and every fan that wasn't a fucking Arsenal fan was convinced we would go up to Manchester City and they would stamp their authority and show us who the real champions were. Everybody thought that. And it didn't come to pass. We went up there and we snuffed them out, and we stopped them, and we came away from there in front of them in the league, only having our destiny in our own hands.
Because we were 5 points ahead, but they had 2 games in hand, or something like that. No, we were
5 points ahead, and they had 1 game in hand.
1 game in hand.
So had they won that, they'd have been. We assume they're going to win that. We'd have been 2. We were 2 points ahead on level games.
Yeah.
Having played them twice. That's a good position to be in. And of course, ultimately, if we'd beat them up there, we would have won the league. But if we'd have beaten fucking Fulham, if we'd have beaten West Ham, or Aston Villa, one of the 2 times we played them, we would also have won the league. It wasn't the game at City that didn't win us the league. It was dropping points. And for me, I go back to the same thing. All those games that I've mentioned that we lost, that we shouldn't have done, Kai Havertz was shoehorned into playing in midfield. And it didn't suit him. And everybody was saying, oh, what a waste of money. They'll laugh at this now. It's a sarcastic chant. 60 million down the drain. Right? But look, it was. By the time we got to Christmas, it was 60 million down the drain. And if he'd continued to play him in midfield, we would still have been thinking it was 60 million pounds down the drain. So
I said so, George. Let me be brutal. Up to Christmas, I said it was 60 million down the drain because he was not looking like a Premier League player.
No, Shotta, he still wouldn't look like a great player if we fucking made him play in midfield.
Exactly.
And played Jesus up top. The revisionism gets me fucking going because yes, we know how well he's doing now, and I'm glad we've got him. And I hope he continues next year. And I hope we fucking carry on scoring and assisting at the rates he does. He's doing great.
Yes.
But you drop him back into midfield, and you'll see exactly the same player we saw in the first half. It wasn't like a confidence in as much as he didn't have the confidence to play that position because that's not his fucking position.
Exactly. And I like his attitude now, George. He missed you'd say a header, which is a sitter by his standards on Sunday, and he was annoyed. I mean, he's like, I should have,
I saw the interview. We had him. I don't know whether you got the Sky interview afterwards when they interviewed him, and they were trying to say how well we'd done when we challenged and how much the team had grown. And he was distraught. He was furious that we had.
Yes, he was crying. Yeah,
and
he was crying on the field afterwards.
Yeah, he was mad as hell, and I like that. I like everything about him now. I like the way he plays. I like the position he plays. I like his effort. I like his attitude. I like his application. I don't like, but that's because he's playing in the right position now. But he wasn't bought to play there. He wasn't bought to play there. He was bought
to play this Xhaka position, as you quite.
Yes, he was, and it absolutely didn't fucking work.
Yeah,
and we stuck with it, and clearly we stuck with it too long because we dropped too many points.
Yeah,
like I said, if you can name me a game that we lost that we shouldn't have lost, that he didn't play in midfield, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of memory anymore of, you remember there was a time I could tell you every game. I admire people like that on Twitter. They don't read that much, but but in general, you're right, George. And the last 13 games, I think City won 13 straight. We won 12 and lost 1. I checked. I checked it. I checked the last 12 games. There was on the website that spoke about it.
Yeah. That's a title-winning run that we went on.
89 points are not winning. Yeah.
It's ridiculous that we didn't win it. But Manchester City are out of this world football team. And You just got to accept that they're probably the best team that's ever played in the league.
And I kept saying that this year's team wasn't as
it's not quite up to
as the same one as
people
last
are
year.
saying, "Oh, next year we'll get better."
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they're not a lot better next year as well.
That is the fear, and I wanted you to talk about that because
one of these days, Pep Guardiola is going to reach the conclusion that KDB losing the ball 30 times in a game isn't worth the fucking price of what he brings.
Yeah,
and somebody else is going to play that position, probably Foden, and they'll become even more efficient and effective.
That's the word. That's the word, George, because I keep tweeting. I love to see him dribble and take on players and then to make the pass. I'm not saying he's not creative and inventive in his passing, but his dribbling is careless, in my opinion. He's not, he wants to break the lines with his dribble, and I understand why he has to do it. But you have a chance of taking the ball away from him often, more than he succeeds. I'm not any expert. This is my observation. I don't know if you share it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've said it a lot of time. You'll see him. He'll spam the ball in.
Yeah.
First time, I don't know, 20 times in a match.
Yes.
And on one occasion, where the ball lands, there'll be a world-class player on the end of it. He's not picked him out. He just happens to be in that place because there's a few of them in the box. Yes. They're all world-class. And he spams it in. One of them, it drops at their feet or on their head, and they score. And the commentators will say, brilliant ball from Kevin De Bruyne. Look how he's picked him out. He hasn't picked him out. He's not even looked. He's just fucking spammed it in. Which, granted, is effective. You know, you can't argue with his goals and assists. You should count. But doesn't mean that he's the genius. He's not like Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil will put the ball in as often as him, but it will a lot more often find an Arsenal player than it does percentage-wise. They might not have scored as many off it or whatever, but he wasn't giving the ball away. He was getting like 90% pass. You see Kevin De Bruyne, he'll reach the end of the game. Sometimes it's like 35% pass accuracy.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. For Manchester City, who are up in the 90s for everybody else, he's like 30% passing accuracy. Now, obviously, he's allowed the license to do that.
Yes.
But imagine if you had a player like Ozil, for instance, with all those other players around him, that he's picking them out rather than just spamming it in. And the danger is they find someone like that. Or that Phil Foden takes his place.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, Foden is playing places to accommodate Kevin De Bruyne.
Right. He's coming from wide and coming inside, but he's not getting in De Bruyne's way and finishing off plays.
Take De Bruyne out of it and put Foden in the middle of the park, and it might be a bit frightening what happens at Manchester City.
And George,
let's not big Manchester City up though.
Yes, I want to go with, but there's something here I want to talk about. We are spending money to get into the title race, and Arteta spent 700 million over the last 4 years. Now, I'm not the gross spend, I'm not the net spend. But City keeps spending like $150 million pounds, or thereabouts every year, illegally in many instances. It's not been proven, but there are all these charges against them. And we can suspect, as you say, they're going to spend another £100 million this year. Look at this was at the beginning of the season, and apart from Manchester United, who underperformed tremendously, you're right. Their spending will probably be to add a piece or two, which make them more competitive. What does that mean for us, George? That is the point. What does that mean for us at Arsenal?
Well, the thing is, at Manchester City, if they spend £100 million on a player,
Yes.
it's to slightly improve on a player that's only now worth 70 or 80 million pounds.
Yeah.
Whereas we're spending £100 million on a player to replace somebody that doesn't exist. We need that guy.
Yes.
And
who do we need, George? Who do we need? What do we need?
well, in my opinion, I think we're all right in defence. I think with Timber, it will be like a new signing.
Yes.
I think we're fine. If I think Keogh, he'll get better. He can play as a centre back. I think we need a replacement for Thomas Partey, someone to play the holding role, because Declan Rice appears to have taken the left centre mid role.
He's like the Xhaka now. Not without that skill set, but he's like the Xhaka.
So either you replace Partey, or you drop Declan Rice back and replace Declan Rice there, and find an actual Xhaka replacement.
Yeah.
I think we need a winger, maybe even two, and we need a centre forward. So that's four.
When you say a winger, you're talking about replace a supplement to Saka or Martinelli.
Well, we need someone that can play adequately replace Saka when he needs a rest or if he gets injured. Fortunately for us, he hasn't been injured much this season.
Yeah, but George, I'm interrupting here, but the hits take their toll. He's a young man and it's not showing yet, but the hits take their toll over time.
Yeah. Martinelli, we have Martinelli and Trossard, both decent players. Trossard seems to have taken his place as the starter at the moment.
But he's not a winger. George.
No, he's not quite. He's not fast enough. Martinelli is fast enough, but he's not tricky enough. He's not. His first touch is suspect. I think we need two wingers and we need a centre forward.
Right. Gabriel Jesus is gonna be sold, George. Don't you think? If these people are ruthless and cold-blooded as they should be, he should be on the.
I think we have to sell. I think we have to sell him. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't sell Zinchenko.
Yes.
Probably Reece Nelson. There's no point him being here. Eddie probably got to go as well.
Didn't even come on Sunday.
So personally, I wouldn't sell Emile Smith-Rowe, but his days are probably numbered as well. So if you think we should get decent money for those players, Aaron Ramsdale, he's got to be sold. Yeah, but that makes me laugh. They're saying that Newcastle have offered 15 million for him. And remember, early on at the end of last season, all the Arsenal fans were tweeting that some figures had come out that he was the most valuable goalkeeper in the world, valued at 85 million or something. And
what do you say in England? You can't get a pack of crisp and what? Something else. In football terms, that's the equivalent.
We should get some money back for him. I think we should get 15, 20 million for him. Probably the same for Eddie and Smith-Rowe and Nelson, and maybe a little bit more for Zinchenko and Jesus. So
then we should
there's probably £150 million knocking about there.
Then we should take that money and make a bid for Stefan Ortega, George. As our backup goalkeeper.
But it's so easy to do, isn't it? It's like playing fantasy football. I mean, and who do we get? You know, let's get Isaac from Newcastle. Yeah, good luck with that. You know what I mean? It's not that easy, is it? These players are thin on the ground. Players that are
very
better
nice.
to get a player that's better than Trossard, that's
Yeah.
better than Martinelli, that's better than Kai Havertz playing at number 9.
Yeah.
A lot of money for a player like that. If you
That's
can
the
get
challenge.
him.
That's the challenge that, if the ownership is going to, spend money, what kind of players can they get? Because, I mean, last year, Pep only spent some money on Doku, for £50 million. I was checking it out. I don't, and the boy, Gabriel, £78 million, George. He's he is a handful. But you don't you have to be scouting but it's good money for good players.
Oh, it's good money. I mean, think how much. Like I said, we need a replacement for Thomas Partey, someone that can play in that holding role. And how much
Like
is that?
Rodri, like Rodri, George.
Yes. I think, how much did Chelsea play for the lad who we put a bid in for?
Yes,
Murdick.
Murdick.
No, the holding midfielder that.
Oh, Caicedo.
Yeah,
£85 million.
They paid more for him than we paid for Declan Rice.
Exactly.
Now, if we want somebody of that, not imagine if you bought him for that money, you'd be fucking gutted, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But we tried to.
Yeah.
We tried to get him.
Yes. And don't forget, George. Liverpool is. I'm not. Is still in the hunt. They spent a lot of money at the beginning of last year or over the years. I saw a figure that during the Klopp era they spent £800 million. But some of the players that they bought in the last 2 years were bust. I'm not sure about Gravenbach. I'm not sure about Darwin Núñez. He's not consistent enough for me. And what's his name? The Egyptian Salah is past it. He can't play 90 minutes, and the goals he used to score they're not going in. So they have got to spend money, and they want to win again.
Spend money. Manchester United will be looking to spend money. They're not going. Manchester United is not going with that fucking shower of shite again.
Yeah. This
season they're going to have to spend big money. So the competition will be fierce, and it's not that easy. It's not that easy. Like I say, you're talking £100 million in every position.
Yeah.
Now, Isaac, he's going to cost you £100 million if you were to try. If you could get him, a good defensive midfielder, that's another £100 million. A good winger, that's another £100 million. That's £300 million.
Yes.
Let's say we get £150 million back for who we sell.
Yes.
That still leaves us short £150 million. We're running at a loss. We lost another £50 million this season.
Oh, really? I didn't check those figures.
Yeah, we lost another £50 million this season. So you're going to ask Mr. Kroenke to put his hand in his pocket to the extent of £200 million.
Yeah.
Another £200 million. Mr. Kroenke, please.
Yeah. And
if you want to spend that sort of money, if you want to buy those type of players, and that's not replacing, and then you've still got to find a replacement for your goalkeeper that you're selling.
A good goalkeeper, because you need a good second goalkeeper. That's becoming quite obvious in the league.
Perhaps another fullback to replace Zinchenko if you let him go. Although I don't feel that we desperately need that at the moment. But that then again, with Thomas Acker's injury record, maybe we do. Maybe we do. Do we want to continue playing Ben White with basically no cover for him? It's endless spending of money. And Manchester City are the only team that can do it consistently, because it doesn't fucking matter to them. It doesn't matter to them.
I think the whole point of this exercise to wrap it up, because we're doing an extended version here, George, but people are assuming that we are improving definitely over the prior year, coming closer and closer, that 24-25 we will win the title. And I think the point that we are both making, and you especially, it's not automatic.
Absolutely, it's not automatic, because I think Manchester City will see the weaknesses and he'll strengthen his team. And he's strengthening from a position of greater strength than we are strengthening from. So we also have to outspend them from a position where they're already a little bit better than us in most positions still. So,
And you know, George, at least I think that, well, I have that feeling or speculating wishfully that they'll get so, complacent after winning 6 titles, so satiated that, next year they won't be as competitive. Yeah, and I don't
that
know.
was the hope this year.
I mean, George, sorry, I missed that.
That was the hope this year, that after winning the treble last year, that they wouldn't be bothered. And they're only going to do, but they're going to be so disappointed to only having done the double. And let's be honest, they completely outplayed Real Madrid over 2 legs and somehow managed to fucking lose. They could have done the treble again this season if there had been any justice in Europe. They were better than Real Madrid. And they lost somehow. But that happens in football.
Yeah, it happens. And the thing that struck me, George, on that note about how dominant they are and how greedy they are, Foden has won 6 titles since he's gotten into the first team. And he, in the interview on my feed, I don't know if it was on Sky for you, the fellow was greedy for more. I was just like, what the fuck is happening here? And I mean, there was a bunch of them. Walker has won. From he went up there, he's been winning titles. And a few others. Many with 4. Kevin De Bruyne has 6. You know what I'm saying? It's so. You know what happens in these dominant teams, George? They think they should rule as long as they live until the era ends. I remember Liverpool feeling that they should just turn up every season and win the whole English championship.
And what you have to remember is, Pep Guardiola's a ruthless fucker.
Yes.
He won't keep somebody hanging around at Manchester City if he thinks that anywhere approaching over the hill, they'll be gone because it's his neck on the line. He's got to keep dominating. With those sort of all the shenanigans, the 115 charges and all the rest of it, the only way he comes out of this smelling of roses is if they're so dominant that you can justify the breaches that have gone on. It's they had 115 charges, but still he's won 7 fucking titles.
Yes.
Who else could have done that? And it's hard to argue, that someone else would also have done that because he is an outstanding fucking manager. Given the resources. Well, he has been given the resources.
George,
it's a bit depressing.
Sorry.
I think it's very depressing for all of football that they've been allowed to cheat in the way that they have. When we all know what they've done. Everybody knows what they've done. Everybody knows how they did it and when they did it. And somehow they're fucking getting away with it.
And because the EPL is looking at it with a wink and a nod. George, are you?
What will happen? I'll tell you what will happen in the end. They'll get a fine, which means absolutely fuck all. Imagine even if they fined £100 million, which they'll drop that on a player that doesn't fucking work effectively. They'll drop that on Jack Grealish and leave him sat on the fucking bench for the year.
Yeah.
£100 million, and they won't give a fuck because they've got $2.2 trillion to dip into in the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Overseas Development Sovereign Wealth Fund. 2.2 billion, and that was fucking over 10 years ago, so it'll be more than that now. It's a drop in the ocean. Basically, it's like fining someone with £1,000, £10,
Yeah.
That tenner's a lot to somebody with no money, but it's not much to you if you got a grand in your backside. So,
George, I think we are not. Pardon me?
I don't see it changing. I just don't.
Neither do I. George, we're not good Arsenal fans. We're not singing about
Hey,
lullabies
look,
and
hang on a minute. Let's be true. Let's be honest here. We've done
yeah,
brilliant this season.
that's not yeah.
But it's
And
like,
this is something we should take away from this because you keep saying it. There is
yeah,
there is a
we've
great credit in coming close and running Manchester City down to the
absolutely.
last
But,
game.
but the problem is, remember when Lance Armstrong won 6 titles, Tour de France titles?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you remember that?
An
Can
Olympic
you give me
title.
the name? Can you give me the name of somebody who was runner-up to him?
That's exactly the point, George. Nobody remembers who comes
Nobody
second. I have
remembers.
no idea.
Ben Johnson won the 100 meters, didn't he?
The reason why I remember
Was
the
it in
race is that there
Stoke?
was a Jamaican. There was a Jamaican in the race that he ran down. I
Somewhere,
don't. I think he came
somewhere.
fourth.
But who
Yeah.
came second? Was it Carl
I
Lewis?
have no
Was
idea.
it? No, nobody knows. Nobody remembers.
Yeah.
The cheat
Yeah.
won it. That's all you remember.
Yeah.
And they get the title stripped, and somebody else gets it. But nobody gives a fuck. Nobody remembers. Well,
Yeah.
they won't be taking any titles off Manchester City. They won't be saying we're going to retrospectively dock points. That won't happen.
And you know,
The best you can hope for is that they start a season 10 points behind everybody else, one season, and they've already got the 7 titles in the pocket. Well, they would have fucking taken that. That's a good bargain. £100 million fine and 10 points, but you've won every domestic trophy 2 or 3 times and the Premier League 7 times. Thank you very much. So they're laughing. They're absolutely laughing.
George, the irony of it all, because we Jamaicans paid a lot of attention because Ben Johnson was of Jamaican birth, they were being celebrated, and any conversation with amongst athletics fans. Do you remember the year when Ben Johnson won the 100 meters illegally? Nobody remembers who else participated. And it's the same thing's going to happen in the Premier League. Do you remember when Pep won 6 titles? No, not 6, 4 titles in consecutively. No. Oh, he did it legally. Oh, but he won 4. You're absolutely right, George.
Yeah, because they're not going to take them away from him. They took Ben Johnson's medal off him. They won't take any of those medals off Pep Guardiola or Manchester City. They've got them now. They're in the bag. They've won. They've cheated and they've got away with it.
Yeah.
And whatever punishment they come up with, the fine won't matter to them at all. 10 points behind to start of a season. They might not win it that season a little bit. Well, they'd have swapped that. You'd swap fucking coming second one season if you were going to win 4, wouldn't you?
Yes, yes, they win.
If I said to you, Arsenal will win the next 4 titles, but on the 5th year, you have to start 10 points behind everybody else. Will you take that, Shotta? I think you might.
Hell yes! George, it was a pleasure talking to you all season. I'm gonna apologize to the members of our gang who do these preseason reviews and postseason group reviews with us. I am, from personal reasons which I won't disclose on this podcast, I am unable to organize this, and I'll be out of commission over the next 2 weeks or more, actually 3 weeks. I'll have to travel on family matters, so we won't have that big shebang. But I want to thank you, George. I want to thank those who supported us. George, audience, I know very well that we are not the most popular Arsenal podcast, but I think we are the most truthful. We speak our minds, and I'm going to say George is the main proponent of this. And for that reason, I value every one of you who listen to us and share and give us all these ideas and share your comments and ideas and encourage us, because, you spend this time, you do this research, you provide the facts. We wake up this early. George has to wait on me until afternoon, and you you would hope that you know, as a human being, that you would be rewarded. But that's the way of the Arsenal fan base. George, after that long piece, might be any final words from you?
Yeah, have a nice close season, everybody.
Thank you all, and until
let's come back next season swinging again.
yes,
and hope that next season is the season that they knock on 10 points.
Yes, sure.
They don't manage to delay it for another 2 or 3 seasons before they pay the price, the little price that they'll pay.
Okay, George, you have it. Bye, my friend. Bye to all the fans. Until next season. All righty. Bye.